Welcome to the program, everybody from the edge of America. I'm Rick Amato. As the rioting, violence, and over-the-top hyper media coverage of the events in Ferguson continue to rage on, what do we know? We know that an 18-year-old life was violently cut short in the streets of Ferguson, Missouri. We know that the victim, Michael Brown, happened to also have black skin color. And a police officer, Darren Wilson, happened to have white skin color. And that alone is what the media and those rioting in the streets are fixated on, drawing all sorts of conclusions, or should I say implying all sorts of conclusions based upon skin color before the results of the investigation are known. Can you say O.J. Simpson? We now also know that, according to a crime reporter for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, there are now more than a dozen witnesses who confirm the police officer's version of the shooting. Another eyewitness is now saying that she saw Michael Brown punch the officer in the face and grab for his gun. And then there's this. It has been confirmed that police officer Darren Wilson suffered a fractured eye socket during his altercation with Michael Brown. And let's not forget the video of the 6'5", 300-pound Brown robbing a convenience store just 10 minutes prior to his fatal encounter with Officer Wilson. Attorney General Eric Holder once called us a nation of cowards on the issue of race. All the facts of the investigation are not yet in, but as of right now, it is looking as if it is the American mainstream media and those using race to incite violence in the streets of Ferguson who are too cowardly to have an honest, frank conversation on the role of race in this case. Joining me at this time from Washington, D.C. is the co-chair and legal analyst for Project 21, Horace Cooper. Mr. Cooper, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on today.
Your take on on my premise at the outset here. Do you agree or disagree that we're watching people jump to a conclusion based upon race, ignoring, showing no regard, not even caring of what the facts of this incident may involve?
Well, perhaps with the exception of the President of the United States, because it's not clear, I've been listening to some of his comments, almost every other person who's interjected themselves, senators, congressmen, the Justice Department, the governor, seem to have prejudged this issue and really aren't concerned about what the facts and the details are. And so I agree with your analysis. The media has been, the mainstream media, has been very effective in creating a false narrative, starting from false statements about the age of the individual. First he was 17, now he's 18. They recently interviewed one of his teachers who says he's a year and a half behind. We still don't know the full story about what occurred. What we do have some details tell us is that there's a reason investigations occur and take time. We don't rush to judgment. We don't come out with a charge. Now, I've been very disappointed that very few outlets are showing Malik Shabazz going around chanting, "We want him dead." That is exactly the wrong mindset. I've been disappointed that people like Al Sharpton are allowed to come in and use it to boost his show while distorting the reality on the ground about what's going on.
What about Eric Holder's role in this, Horace Cooper? You're right. It is despicable for Al Sharpton or anyone else, but in this case, Al Sharpton, to use this tragic incident and to use all the misinformation and the emotion surrounding it to inject his agenda to generate ratings. What about Eric Holder? He's called for a third autopsy. As I understand, he is headed for St. Louis. Is he injecting politics into this? What exactly is he doing? I haven't quite figured out what he's up to here.
He's injecting a racist vitriol. He is feeding resentment on the part of people who may not have seen as much information as the investigators on the ground have. Here's the problem. If there is an indictment that comes down, there's then going to be a trial. All of the claims and allegations are going to have to be responded to. If in the course of the grand jury they choose not to go forward, he has misled and joined in with people like Al Sharpton and Benjamin Crump to create a false narrative. The term execute was designed to leave in the mind of listeners the idea that there was a completely and totally unjustified killing where the person that was killed was done so in the most unprotected way possible. That's why they use a narrative the way that they do. That's the reason why we're seeing 50 officers, FBI officers, brought in. It creates a false impression. Now, I say that to ask this question. The Saturday before the incident of the shooting occurred in Chicago, almost 36 people were gunned down,
That's right.
Most of them black. This weekend, we saw 24 people killed, most of them black. I have seen no evidence that the FBI is going to investigate, that there needs to be any civil rights issues assessed. No concern. What I have seen is a desire to feed racial resentments. There's no doubt that there are pockets in America where people, black, white, or brown, or whatever it may be, are unhappy with their lot. In this case in Ferguson, there's been a great effort to manipulate that situation to feed the resentments that may already pre-exist the situation.
As you say, nearly 36 people, I believe the number is 32, were gunned down, shot, and killed in Chicago recently. There was no Jesse Jackson. There was no Al Sharpton. There was no Eric Holder there, but they are here. I want to believe Horace Cooper. I may disagree with the man ideologically on his politics, but I want to believe that Eric Holder is a decent human being who wants to see justice in the world. The same with our president. But when you see them doing what they're doing, as you described, they are feeding into a false narrative, and they're doing it. The only conclusion I arrive at is they're doing it to raise money, to help raise money for fundraising for politics, and to politicize the issue so that more people in the Democratic Party come out and vote come November, in addition to that, so that they try and recruit more loyalty from black voters. Do I have this all wrong?
Well, when I see, and I think you're onto something, when I see some of the YouTube posts, some of the Instagram video posts that are showing people complaining about Al Sharpton, complaining about President Obama, what you look at, when you look at the data, it shows that during the 6+ years of the Obama administration, there has been a dramatic setback for black Americans. And rather than have a conversation about why the policies that were embarked upon, that many people criticize, but they were embarked upon, and how they haven't worked, rather than have that conversation, it appears that Mr. Holder sees it as his job to energize, to gin up. It's not a coincidence that during the Trayvon Martin events, that the Justice Department sent taxpayer grants. That's money that you and I and your audience contribute so that they could support the marches and the demonstrations that ultimately would call for the arrest of Mr. Zimmerman. When you bypass the grand jury process, when you fire the police chief, and when you engage in the irregulars, you create a setting that people are shocked that the outcome of a not guilty finding occurred. I, as a former constitutional lawyer, a constitutional law professor, could have told you what the outcome would be in any kind of neutral, dispassionate system. If we short-circuit the trial process here, you're going to see another circumstance where people are really going to be surprised at the outcome. Eric Holder, as a trained attorney and the chief law enforcement officer in the land, ought to know better about that. Again, I ask, if we really do have all of these extra resources at the Department of Justice, why aren't you taking them out to Chicago? Why aren't you taking them out to New Orleans? Why aren't you taking them out to Detroit and all of the other places where black lives and other minorities are dying left and right without any investigation or concern on the part of what is the setting that is causing all of those outcomes.
Horace Cooper, legal analyst, Project 21. We appreciate you joining us. And it's an important message. I am told consistently, Horace, I am told consistently by those in the black community who voice opinions such as yours that they feel intimidated. People tell me they feel intimidated. They're called traitors from their friends in a black community for voicing such opinions. I'm not saying on this particular issue. I'm talking more broad, and I just feel that it's wrong. And we want to just say we appreciate you coming on and speaking from your heart and speaking what I believe is the blunt truth here. All right, so.